Nothing's worse than a train wreck trying to humble brag. What is it we do here on the Red Pill? We swap notes. Now, I'm sure a lot of people have heard all kinds of different stories about us, so I'm here to give you a glimpse inside the locker room. Who am I? I'm Ryan. I used to be one of these guys. Just like you, I was good with women and relationships, but I wasn't great at it. And when hard times hit, things got tough, and it turns out there is nowhere for a man to go to solve these problems and learn to thrive. So, we built this space based on the experiences of hundreds of thousands of men just like you. It's men swapping notes, iron sharpening iron. Welcome to the locker room. I used to love my wife of 6 years very much. She was my dream girl, but once we got married, she changed. She became more serious, cared about dollars and cents, wanted to have spreadsheets, savings, 401k, all the serious, boring stuff. She was always unhappy and stressed out. She would complain about how I didn't make enough money, how I wasn't ambitious and serious enough. She would always compare me to her best friend's husband who's a small business owner and makes millions. My presents were good enough for her. I was too unsophisticated, blah blah blah. Her friends started having kids. I wanted to have kids too, but she said we didn't have enough money and save to think about it. We also lived in a dead bedroom. I was sick of watching. It tore me down. It destroyed my self-esteem. And a few months back, I went out with my buddies and a girl started chatting me up. We exchanged numbers, we started texting, and eventually met up for drinks. It felt so good to have a woman give me attention and show me that I'm desirable. We had sex, and after that, I kept going out and was surprised at being successful with women. Needless to say, I have been seeing multiple women over the past few months. I am not in love with my wife anymore. I now know what it feels like to be desired and respected. I don't want to go back to my old marriage. She knows something's up and all I can do is avoid her. I don't even feel bad. I just want to know how to get out. Most men can't even get one girl. I have 4 to 5 on speed dial in every given moment. Once I stepped out, I realized I'm not the loser my wife made me out to be. Other women throw themselves at me. Currently, I'm dating a 19-year-old college student. I visit her dorm at least twice a week. A couple of terms before we get started. It's a term I came up with back when we had a poster that went by the pen name that I am Steve McQueen. He had a situation a lot like this, where he would leave his wife instantly. He wasn't happy, so he left. Nobody can fault him for that. In fact, a lot of the boilerplate advice is if your marriage isn't working, that you should get out of it. The problem was, once he did it, he had another relationship 6 weeks later, and then 3 months down the road, his new girlfriend acted exactly the same as his ex-wife did. And that's kicking the can down the road. Op here has a ton of problems with his life, and I guarantee you we haven't even scratched the surface on them. But as soon as he starts feeling bad because his wife is berating him, not sleeping with him, and he gets that small amount of validation from other girls, he instantly thinks that life is just going to be greater. He jumps ship, jumps onto one of these ones, and he's going to end up in the same problem he's in right now 6 months later, wasting all that time. So when you're in these kind of situations and you decide to go do what you're going to do, a big thing to keep in mind is you really need to have that self-reflection. You need to understand what it is that you did to put you in your situation so that you never make that same mistake again. Validation seeking is a huge pain in the ass. A lot of guys do it. I like to say it's a female quality, but increasingly men seem to have been adopting it wholesale. The idea of a girl getting validation from that top tier man that she's really in love with, awesome thing. Nobody thinks of that as unhealthy. But a guy seeking validation in the arms of other women, generally seen as unhealthy. The problem's because who he's using to seek that validation from, and it's other people, in this case women. I mean, imagine the kind of person you are when a 19-year-old girl in college is your source of validation. That's aiming very, very low. A 19-year-old college student just wants to have fun and study. They really don't care about filling your existential fear of identities. And putting that onus onto somebody else is the easiest way you're going to find them completely uninterested in you in the long term. I guarantee you these 4 to 5 women that he knows right now, they don't know him. His wife knows him, and there's probably a reason why they have a dead bedroom and a 6-year loveless marriage where all she can do is talk about finance. In fact, I'd also wager that that validation seeking from the wife went away once she had needs that she started wanting to get met. Now, I'm not saying he needs to care. Nobody tells you what the right thing to do is here, but the fact that he isn't establishing that as the frame to work within tells me right here that his wife was just a similar source of validation to that 19-year-old college student. The only difference is, once she started giving it, he went and looked elsewhere for it. But all this time, he still hasn't dealt with the main problem. He doesn't have a self-identity or a strong sense of frame to build all these decisions from. And this is going to blow up in his face, I guarantee it. I do want to give some credit to the sober second opinion. For a lot of guys, maybe they have made some mistakes. I know guys coming back from the military often had anxiety attacks from their time in the deployments, and the wives will often see that, automatically lose respect and attraction for them, and then over the years, it slowly goes away, but that girl's disrespect still stays there. People tend to build a consistent image of what you are in their heads, and it's very hard to change that. And once the girl you're with has seen you as a schlub, chances are she's not going to stop seeing it, even though you're hitting the gym, being more attractive, being less unattractive, and have a strong frame. For a lot of guys, though, they're having that problem getting over that hurdle of validation, and this is where a sober second opinion can come in handy. We often talk about it as catch and release, or just going out, flirting with women, being charming, just seeing if you actually are attractive to somebody if they don't have all this built-up baggage about you. Generally, the idea for that is to let yourself have an idea about your self-worth in a way that has a feedback loop with the outside world. It's not enough just to say, I think I'm awesome and therefore I am, because people lie to themselves all the time. But if you can go out and every time you're talking with a group of people, a crowd forms around you, well, there's some pretty good proof there that whatever problems you're having in your relationship may not be yours, and you probably have dealt with them by now. The thing to keep in mind, though, is this is one of those at the end of the road kind of situations when you pretty sure you have your things sorted out, but you need that cold, sober second opinion. My advice for this guy, it really depends on where his situation is. If you notice, he mentioned absolutely nothing about himself, anything that's deficient about it, or anything that he wants to work on about himself. All he mentioned was his wife doesn't love him, he's sleeping with a lot of girls, and he wants an attaboy and back pats for it. Personally, I cannot stand when a guy comes seeking this kind of validation from random strangers on the internet. I think it's not only unattractive, but it shows you exactly how unattractive it looks. Because imagine somebody who's face to face with him getting this. It's going to look even worse. So my advice for this guy, I'm going to take a guess here, and because he talks so much about how his wife is worried with money and him not earning enough, that he's either not living up to his potential, or he married the kind of girl who's a bit of a materialista. It's a term from Franco's book, Practical Female Psychology, and where they base their love on what they can get. Huge designer bags, that sort of stuff. She has friends whose husbands are a millionaire, so I don't think it's very unreasonable to assume he picked himself up a gold digger because she was hot and giving him validation. Well, the problem with that comes, gold diggers want gold. And if you're not getting the validation and you're not getting the gold, well, chances are you've just married a roommate who nags a whole lot. On this note, it is probably worth leaving her over this one. It sounds like they don't have any kids, it sounds dysfunctional, and she already has a horrible image of what he's like, that even if he works on this, she's probably never going to see it or care. But he really does need to take some time. Take a breath, take a beat, take 12 months, work on yourself, and treat her as that sparring partner in your life, because if you can end up being attractive and charismatic around a girl that can't stand you or has all this built-up baggage about how bad you used to be, then you can work it on anybody. And then once you leave, the next girl you decide to get with is not going to turn into this exact same situation 3 months later. Don't kick the can down the road. You need to understand the scope of your control. In this case, the guy cannot control what his girl feels, what she wants, what her demands are, or how she acts in the bedroom. None of that is under your control. Your control is just what you can do about it, and if that's something that needs to be taken seriously. Because, let's face it, Some people nag, bitch, moan, complain. Some people do that because they're just horrible people. But then again, some people also do that because you're basically a bag of crap and they just want you to step up. There's a great concept in the Married Red Pill we call it the 3 dysfunctional captains. Essentially, every guy coming in will fit one of 3 general archetypes. He either is the guy who let himself slack and now is a shell of the man he used to be and has a first officer who's begrudgingly taking over. The second one is having a constantly complaining first officer that doesn't trust your judgment and fights you every step of the way. And then the third one is the girl that actually never wanted a captain. She just wanted a guy she could bully. Now, I don't know which one this is, and I'm wagering that he doesn't either. But what's in this for you is to be able to identify which kind of these archetypes come up, because they all have very similar field reports. And if you start to notice a lot of the things that the type of the drunken captain is saying resonating with you, well, chances are that could be the kind of thing that you have in your life as well. So instead of blaming women, and if it's their fault, that's great, just make sure you've got your own house sorted out before you start trying to clean hers. An alternative to this, first off, there's no dream girls. He put this girl on a pedestal and she gladly took herself off the pedestal. He was married for 6 years. It's not a long time, but it's long enough. Once she started complaining about finances, that was a big telltale sign that 6 months prior, or better yet, before they even got married, he should have had a good plan of leadership on how to handle finances for a second person in the family unit. I don't know what she does for a living. I don't know what he does for a living. But the fact that he doesn't have a financial plan that can soothe the soul of the person he's with means he either doesn't have one or he picked a girl that didn't trust him. Either way, that's an alternative situation there that he could have sorted out right early. This is my way or the highway. Things are handled with as much evidence as you want to show. Maybe you want to show the spreadsheets, maybe just saying trust me is enough. Whatever that boundary is, you set it early and you say if you don't like it, there's the door, I can find another one. Second part of this that would change is once he gets into this situation where his wife no longer wants him, he kind of feels crappy, his own self-worth is kind of removed. Yeah, go out, flirt, go out, do what you have to do, but be aware. Don't be avoiding your wife because of this. It's not the infidelity that a lot of couples hate, it's the dishonesty. And the fact that he's being dishonest right now really causes more harm than it's worth, because I guarantee you, if and when she finds out, this is going to give her all the emotional fuel she needs to weaponize a divorce proceeding against him. And if you want to see how bad divorce rape gets, well, wait till you get a situation where a girl is vindictive. And nothing makes a girl more vindictive than seeing a man who's turned himself into a shell of a man, a bit of a schlub, irresponsible, very unattractive, and then watching him think that he can pull a fast one on her by showing off with what a very top tier man would do and have a soft harem of women. I guarantee you that she will be talking to a lawyer and she will be trying to rake him through the coals, if for no other reason than punishment. An alternative to this one too is once it gets to that point, if you really decide that you're staying with your girl for whatever reason, in this case it's usually because kids are almost at that graduation age or financially your lawyer advises it, whatever the reasons are yours. If you're deciding to open up the marriage unilaterally like that, well, the last thing you can do is hide and be apologetic for it. Don't rub it in her face, but at the same time, don't just avoid her either. If you're making decisions, then you need to own those decisions. Otherwise, you need to make different decisions that you can actually live with. Because I guarantee you, if he's not able to do something as important as this, I bet anything that when it comes time to make the hard decisions at the end of this relationship, he's going to waffle on those ones as well and completely screw them up. So I'm going to call this one there. I'm going to give a shout out now. Patreon, we're up to like 200 subs right now. We're talking sexual strategy in there. We're doing weekly Q&As. We got the private forums up. We're building the Library of Alexandria, and it's an awesome time. So feel free, check it out. Links in the description. And on that note, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Cheers.